Hey guys, what's up? This video follows on from the previous video about the mastering assistant. And what we're going to do in this video is compare it to the master I have done on the same track. That way you can hear a comparison between the two. So first off, let's remind ourselves what the track sounded like. The mastering assistant's version. Let's compare that to what I've got. I need to turn off the mastering plugin now. And it's going to run through those plugins instead. Okay, so immediately there's a lot more weight happening, whether you're getting this through YouTube or not. It helps to have a good pair of headphones to hear the subtle changes anyway. I've also run through two different sets of speakers when I'm mastering as well. I go backwards and forwards, but I do a lot on the speakers and then I also check with the headphones. So yeah, immediately there is a lot more punch in the low end. A lot more weight, and I want that because it's kind of it's a club track, or at least it's an electronic piece of music. Like, it wants a punchy low end, some weight in the sub, whereas I felt like the mastering assistant took too much of that out. So there's also just a bit more saturation maybe in the mid to upper range. There's just a bit more like a fizziness and energy to it, and there's a little bit more brightness and air, I would say, compared to this one. Space is nice on this one though. The pads are quite nice. It's got a lot of room to breathe. I do like that. But let's go back. Let's have a look at what I did on mine then to get it that kind of a little bit louder, a little bit punchier, and a little bit more energy to it, I think anyway. But I'm probably being biased here. But before I go on, just saying, just if I haven't said, the mastering assistant is really great. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, and if you are new to this, then you probably shouldn't be mastering your own stuff anyway. I always think it's best to have someone else master your own stuff for you, because you need that objectivity. It's really hard to be objective about your own tracks. That's saying you can totally do it, and I have done it in the past, but a lot of my stuff is mastered by someone else because I want that quality control check, basically. So what have I done for this master? Let's run through everything. So I turned the gain on. Let's turn everything off so we can get a good idea. So gain. So yeah, 3 decibels of gain, nice and easy. Next we've got some EQ. Okay, so I initially lose a little bit of weight there, but what I'm doing is I'm cutting out of the mid channel. That's just like my low roll off in the mids to make sure there's no rumble and very low frequency stuff below 18 hertz there. And then in this one, and that's only in the mid channel. And in the side channel here, I've got kind of a low cut shelf from 100-ish. And that's just rolling everything off by 5 decibels. There isn't too much of that information in the side channels anyway, but what was there was a little bit low and muddy, so I'm just taking that out because most of my weight is in the mid channel. Just by doing that, I get a bit more clarity. Okay, next I go to the imager, and this is kind of what the mastering system was doing as well. It was adding a bit more width to the stereo image. I've got it split into bands here. So the first band, the sub band, is kind of just, I'm making sure that's mono with that. The kind of low mid range I'm not really touching. The higher mids, I'm doing a little bit of widening there, and on the top end, the high end, I'm doing a bit more width there. So you can hear those kind of hi-hats and percussion-y stuff just get a little bit, jump out the sides a little bit more there. Next I've got a Fairchild 670 emulation, and this is kind of my compressor. It's one of 2 compressors I've got on this master bus, and this is kind of, I'm just using this for the tone more than anything, and to bring up the gain as well. I kind of get a warmth with this compressor, I felt like this track needed, so I'm not doing heavy peak reduction or anything. It's just more about adding a warm analogy sound to the, well, as much as you can get within digital, but getting a warmer kind of sound and a bit more gain. So yeah, it's doing about 2 decibels of gain reduction. It's not too significant, really. That's not too much. And yeah, it's more for tone there. Next, I am doing an EQ. So this is where the bulk of my EQ is happening. And although they look like reasonable bumps, it's up to 3 decibels. So I've got kind of around 60 hertz. Doing 1 decibel boost, so that's going to just kind of boost my bottom end a little bit. I've got a mid-range bump, and I think that's particularly to try and get the vocals and bring them out and get more of the sounds from the mids out, so more of the kind of melodic stuff that's starting to happen around there. And then 14.5K, that's kind of going to be air and kind of fizziness. So that's what that's doing, just to get that brightness come up basically. So let's hear it without. Yeah, so you hear the bass come up and you then hear the kind of come up there as well for sure. Next we've got a Pro MB. So that's doing some multi-band expansion on the mid-range. So it's kind of bringing out that top end of the bass, the bob, 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 bob. That's kind of being brought up, and also the aim of it was to get the vocals to come forward in the mix a little bit more. And I could probably automate this to come on, or at least to be stronger for when the vocals come in, so it's not doing across the whole mix, but I think it's okay as it is. I think the overall mids want to come forward a little bit anyway, so I've done that there. And you notice I am starting to get a little bit loud there, so it's just something that I am monitoring my gain staging, but it's kind of at almost clipping point there. So next we have got the compressor, which is a SSL G bus compressor emulation from T-Rax. Oh yeah, and you hear the low end just come up with that, and it gets really nice and warm in my opinion. I really like that, and what I'm doing is 4 on the ratio, 30 milliseconds attack, so it's not cutting off too much kick drum, it's letting as much through as possible. Auto on the release, and the side chain is enabled, so nothing under 150 is triggering the compressor, so it's going to be a little bit more even. Otherwise, without that, the kick drum is just going to trigger that compressor all the time, and the sub as well, so I wanted something a bit more even. Threshold and makeup, so I think I'm making up pretty much what I'm taking off here. So yeah, about 2 to 3 decibels of gain reduction, and I'm boosting 4, so we're getting an extra decibel. And what I found is that adding a decibel here and there through lots of different plugins and keeping those increments smaller is a lot better than, say, boosting 6 decibels, 7 decibels on your limiter at the end. That just seems to really bring out a load of distortion and low end rumble and nastiness basically, and harshness as well, more in the upper mid range. So I prefer to, like, each plugin add maybe a decibel here and there, and that kind of seems to work better for me, at least. That's the way I approach it. Next we've got another EQ, and yeah, just towing a tiny bit of 4K there. A little bit in the snares to bring out the kind of I wanted to bring out the kind of rolliness of the snares. So yeah, that kind of adds, that's kind of bring out a little bit more of the feel. The rhythm's really great in this track, so I was just trying to bring that up a little bit. Next I have a tape machine. And yeah, that's really doing a lot to the mids and the upper range. Like you can really hear that in the, you can hear saturation happening there, basically tape saturation, and that's just adding a fizziness and energy to that middle upper mids kind of. Yeah, adding a presence basically. But yeah, it's just adding that kind of sizzliness, if you like. That just gives it a little bit more energy, a bit more life, I think. So finally we come to the limiter, and that's doing 1 decibel of gain boosting. The limiter is doing about -6 dB. Yeah, between -4 and -6, so let's say -5 on average. I've got it on the punchy style because I felt that was giving it the weight that it needed rather than the all round, which I also like and use a lot. But yeah, that style was the one that was working best for me. Like I've only got 1 decibel here, but I'm doing -6 in reduction from all the little boosts I've done across here. So for me, that is more than enough. If I wanted to boost it further, I can, because it's kind of been done in a way that if I wanted to make it louder, it will go a fair bit louder. But I don't like a massively push sound, and I didn't think this track wanted a push sound, like overly push sound. If the client says he wants it a bit more aggressive or a bit more louder, then I can always boost this another time round, but that's where I'm going to leave it to start off with. If I compare it to the reference tracks, I don't think that's a million miles away. I really like the width in the cirrus track, so maybe that's one area I could look to improve on this master. I can maybe look to get a little bit more width. Let's try over mono. Original. Yeah, so the over mono one is a bit louder for sure. It's definitely, you can see by the waveform, there isn't much dynamic happening there, but it's louder. So I could go that way if the client wants me to. Personally, I think this track's a little bit more laid back, so I don't necessarily need that drivingness that's got from the over mono one, but we'll see what the client says anyway. So hopefully this was able to show you the difference in the mastering assistant and what it can do, and also comparing that to how I've mastered the track myself. I think the mastering assistant does a really great job to get you started. If you don't have a budget for a mastering engineer, definitely use this. I think it's great. So yeah, I hope you found this useful, and I will see you on another video. Take care. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this interesting, and if you want more music production content, please like and subscribe. See you later.